Hello, it is Foundation Friday, June 12th, 2020. Steve Sipress here in my library because we've only got 2 chapters left, but we're going through yet another chapter in the great book by J. Paul Getty, written when he was the richest man on earth, actually written as a series of articles in a popular magazine in the early 60s called Playboy Magazine. And the book is called How to Be Rich, and we only have 2 chapters left, and this one today is what I consider pretty much the pivotal, most important chapter of the entire book/series of articles that he wrote. And your dog is here, great seeing you. It is called The Art of Individuality. And this, above everything, has been responsible for my success, and I've passed it on as a consultant and a coach and a leader and a mentor to many others. And it was passed on to me by my parents and by mentors to me. And it starts out with Getty talking about the successful executive, the leader, the innovator, is the exceptional man. He is not a conformist, except that he conforms to his own ideals and beliefs, which is pretty funny. A young business executive I met once might well serve as the prototype for the entire breed of case-hardened conformist organization men one finds in ever-increasing numbers in the business world today. That was 60 years ago, same thing today, and it's not just the business world, it's all over the place. His clothes, manners, speech, attitudes, and ideals were all studied stereotypes. It was obvious that he believed conformity was essential for success in his career, but he complained that he wasn't getting ahead fast enough and asked me if I could offer any advice. I can't give you any surefire formulas, I said, but I'm certain of one thing. You'll go much further if you stop trying to look and act and think like everyone else and try being a nonconformist for a change. Be an individualist, and an individual, you'll be amazed at how much faster you'll get ahead. And he said that advice went in one ear and out the other. And I fear he was far too dedicated a disciple of that curious present-day hyper-orthodoxy, the cult of conformity, to heed my heretical counsel. I'm sure he will spend the rest of his life aping and parroting the things he believes or has been led to believe are, quote, right and safe. He'll conform to petty, arbitrary codes and conventions, desperately trying to prove himself stable and reliable, but he will only demonstrate that he is unimaginative, uninteresting, and mediocre. Unimaginative, unenterprising, and mediocre. The success and wealth for which men such as this yearn, flip the page, will always elude them. They will remain minor executives, shuffled and shunted from one corporate pigeonhole to another throughout their entire business careers. If that is not a damning explanation of conformity, I don't know what is, from the richest man on earth. And Getty goes on and says, in my opinion, no one can possibly achieve any real and lasting success or get rich in business by being a conformist. You must not imitate others or try to squeeze your thoughts and actions into trite and shop-worn molds. You must be very much of an individualist who can think and act independently. You must be an original, imaginative, resourceful, and entirely self-reliant entrepreneur. If I may be permitted the analogy, you must be a creative artist rather than merely an artisan of business. It goes on and says there are only 3 among the many multi-millionaires who made their, these are only 3, tell some stories of multi-millionaires, who made their fortunes by giving their individualism free rein and who never worried if their nonconformity showed in their private lives. He said, I steadfastly maintain that few, if any, people who insist on squeezing themselves into stereotype molds will ever get very far on the road to success. Also gave the fundamental fallacy, the notion that the majority is automatically and invariably right, when it's quite the opposite. Such is hardly the case. The majority is by no means omniscient just because it's the majority. In fact, I've found that the line which divides majority opinion from mass hysteria is often so fine as to be virtually invisible. You see that now during the shutdown and the fear and panic as I record this in June 2020 about the coronavirus People have bought into the whole, oh, I trust Fauci, I believe what the experts say, even though they've been wrong about everything. And they live in fear and panic, and oh, we're going to have a spike, and oh, people are going to die. You know, people are going to die every day no matter what. Get out there and do something. He says, I found that the line which divides majority opinion from mass hysteria is often so fine as to be virtually invisible. This holds as true in business as it does in any other aspect of human activity. The majority of businessmen think this or that doesn't necessarily guarantee the validity of their opinions. The majority often has a tendency to plod slowly or to mill around helplessly. The nonconformist businessman who follows his own counsel, ignoring the cries of the pack, often reaps fantastic rewards. And then he goes on to talk about the contrarian actions taken by all kinds of successful people during the Great Depression, when everyone was panicking and selling and dumping everything they had. And he tells a whole bunch of stories, him included, that were buying up companies and buying up businesses and starting new businesses. And Rockefeller Center was built in 1931 at the heights of the Great Depression, when everyone said, oh, that's going to be an empty dinosaur for years, what a waste of money. And Conrad Hilton was buying up all the hotels when everyone else was dumping them, and Getty was buying every stock there was when everyone was dumping them. And he said, just one particular stock I purchased has netted me no less than 4,500% profit through the years. That can't be done during a booming economy, folks. It can't be done when times are good. It can only be done when you're going to be a nonconformist, when you're going to not celebrate, of course, other people's grief, like a downturn in the economy and mass unemployment and you know, a tiny percentage of the population having a virus. But going to be opportunistic and make the most of it. Once it passes, and once this chaos is gone, it's gone until the next one. What are you going to make of it? Getty says here, there are businessmen and investors who did the same as me and profited accordingly. But we were the exceptions, the nonconformists who refused to be carried along by the wave of dismal pessimism when it was in vogue with the majority. The truly successful businessman is essentially a dissenter, a rebel who is seldom, if ever, satisfied with the status quo. He creates his success and wealth by constantly seeking and often finding new and better ways to do and make things. It isn't a very long step, he cautions, from a conformist society to a regimented society. He says even worse than people being told they have to conform is a society in which people, instead of being just forced to conform against their will, it's even worse when human beings relinquish their individuality and identity of their own volition. Then they're also relinquishing their claim to being human. So, and then he goes on to say, I don't know if I have the quote here. Yeah, he says, I believe the brainwashing process begins in the schools and colleges. Many teachers and professors seem hell-bent on imbuing their students with a desire to achieve security above all, and at all costs. Beyond this, high school and university curricula are frequently designed to turn out nothing but specialists with circumscribed knowledge and interests, and so that accountants should only be accountants, and so on and so on. It doesn't appear to be too much effort made to produce young men who have a grasp of the overall business picture, who will assume the responsibilities of leadership. Countless otherwise intelligent young men leave the universities where they have received over-specialized educations and then disappear into one of the administrative rabbit warrens of our over-organized corporations. Heaven help the man who dares to be different in thought or action. Any deviation from the mediocre norm, he is told, will brand him a bohemian or a Bolshevik, a crank or a crackpot, a man who is unpredictable and thus unreliable. That, of course, is sheer nonsense. In the political world, it's known as being unpresidential, not conforming. So you see all the conformist presidents and presidential candidates and politicians, the Mitt Romney and the Bushes, Jeb Bush of the world, and all these confirming milquetoast, loser, conformist, losing candidates, so jealous of the nonconformist Trump. Anti-Trumpers whip themselves into a frenzy. So if you're going to be a nonconformist, an individualist, a leader, an innovator, an achiever, yeah, you're going to get your share of grief from all the people. No one in recent history for decades has done more for the present and the past members of the military than Donald Trump. And yet it's the actual members of the military, the ultimate conformist, right? You will all look the same, cut your hair the same, wear the same uniform, walk the same, look the same, talk the same, sleep the same, get up the same, everything's the same. Well, that's a whole life of conformity. They, above all else, just cannot stand Donald Trump. You see all the generals coming out, oh, he's this, and he's that, and he's not this, and he's not that. Of course not. Otherwise, he'd be a mediocre failure, and he would hardly be successful in business, and successful in entertainment, and successful in politics, and people just can't stand that. So you decide. Do you want to be liked as a good person who's just a good old by the book, do everything the way it's supposed to be done? Or do you want to be wildly successful? Your choice. And a lot of that choice is got to do with the art of individuality, as J. Paul Getty, the richest man on earth, is pointing out. This, of course, is sheer nonsense. Any man who allows his individuality to assert itself constructively will soon rise to the top. He'll be the man who is most likely to succeed. Not guaranteed, but most likely. So you decide. You want to be a conformist and say, oh, but the majority says this, and most people trust Fauci, and, most of the media says this, and most say that. Or do you want to give yourself the best shot to succeed? He says the brainwashing continues throughout many a man's career. Blah, 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 blah. Wives have he says wives, now, he was divorced 5 times. So you can take a lot of advice from Getty on how to be rich and how to be successful in business. Maybe not so much in personal life, but he goes off and says here that wives have a habit of raising harrowing specters to deter a husband who might wish to risk his safe, secure job and seek fulfillment and wealth via imaginative and enterprising action. You've got a good future with the Totter and Plod Company, they wail. Don't risk it by doing anything rash. Remember all the bills and payments we have to meet, and we simply must get a new car this year, blah, 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 blah. I am extremely thankful that I have a rhino wife, my beautiful wife, Michelle. Almost immediately when we first met, she made sure to tell me when I told her I was an entrepreneur that her dad was an entrepreneur, and he owned 8 different businesses. And so she understood, and she cherished, and she valued the life of an entrepreneur and understood its ups and downs. It's not safety and conformity. It's been a crazy, wild ride, but she's right there along with me. And so hopefully you have one along with you as well, and not one of these that Getty is describing here, and maybe that he chose as well, because I guess to him opposites attracted, and maybe that's why he was married and divorced 5 times. But he goes on to say that the conformist defeats his own purpose. He remains a second-string player on what he somewhat sophomorically likes to call the team, instead of becoming the captain or the star player. I remember the one corporate job I ever had with the cubicle and all, and they used to say things like, Steve, you're not being a team player, and, blah, 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 this and that. And I'm like, I didn't come here to be part of a team. Last I checked, I answered an ad, I interviewed, I was accepted to a position, and I'm here. It was a job as a consultant on advertising to Yellow Pages advertisers for a Yellow Page publisher. And I said, I'm here to do what's best for the advertiser, and that'll be what's best for the company and best for me. But last I checked, I don't really give a crap what's best for that guy in the cubicle down the row. So I'm not here for him. So and I just walked away, and, in the corporate world, they all shook their heads and said, wow, what a renegade, what the heck, why'd we hire that guy, and he's not fitting in. And I never hung out at their Friday. I went there once or twice, but they would go like to the bar across the street and all hang out, and they'd go have breakfast somewhere all the time. I didn't get involved in any of that. And they'd go, did you hear about whoever and whatever? I'm like, no, of course I didn't, and I don't care. I'm not here to make friends. I'm not here to gossip. I'm not here to hang out. I got plenty of friends, and I can hang out and have plenty of fun on my own time. I'm here to do what's best for the advertiser, which will be what's best for the company and what's best for me. I'm not here to be part of a team. And so, you see, I'd read this book, You can see it's tattered in yellow. I'd read it years before, and I've read it years again after, but this has been ingrained into me, and this chapter maybe above all else. He says, this team player misses the limitless opportunities which today present themselves to the imaginative individualist, but he really doesn't care. I want security, he declares. I want to know that my job is safe, and that I'll get my regular raises in salary, vacations with pay, and a good pension when I retire. This, unhappily, seems to sum up too many young men's ambitions. It is a confession of weakness and cowardice. Ouch! Boom, twist the knife, J. Paul Getty. There is a dearth of young executives who are willing to stick their necks out, to assert themselves and fight for what they think is right and best, even if they have to pound on the corporation president's desk to make their point. Man, I did that more than once. People like, holy crap, I can't believe you talked to the CEO like that. And he's the VP of the company. How do you talk to him like that? I just told him this is screwed up and that's wrong and you screwed this up and you ought to change this. And, the lemmings that wanted their safe, secure benefits and pension and stay at their cubicle forever would shake their head in disbelief and, just not understand anything. But, those people didn't get to be the CEO and the VP and the top managers of the company without being renegades like me. So I went a little overboard at times, in case you can't tell. But, they knew what they had there. And they had lightning in a bottle for the little over 3 years that I somehow managed to stay there before I said, that is enough, and I am out of here. The nonconformist, the leader and originator, has an excellent chance to make his fortune in the business world. He can wear a green toga instead of a gray flannel suit, drink yak's milk rather than martinis, drive a Kibitka instead of a Cadillac, and vote the straight vegetarian ticket. And none of it will make the slightest difference. Ability and achievement are bona fides no one dares question, no matter how unconventional the man who presents them. Ability and achievement, results-oriented, folks, not conformist, safety-oriented. That's the message this week on Foundation Friday. Is foundational. A tip for success is you're going to get anywhere at any time from anybody, in my opinion. And let's see who's got some questions, comments, concerns. A whole bunch of people are here. Jared Dog says, Mr. or Ms. Snowflakes is here. Love it. Snowflakes from the other side of the world or something came on the other day, and I gotta love the name Snowflakes. And Jeremy Danley says, never cater to the hater. Now that's spoken from the most successful comedians in the U.S. today, although none of them really working today, but he's one of the more successful comedians. Well, he's working, just not on the road. He's working from his home studio because he is brilliant and has pivoted to the online world while the rest of entertainers are sitting there going, shows are canceled. What am I going to do? And Jared Dog knows, every comedian knows, you never cater to the hater. The snapping heckler, like you don't sit there and go, oh, I'm being heckled. Maybe I should tell different jokes and maybe I should be nice and calm and quiet. And, you get booed off the stage, would you not? I'm guessing you would. Okay, people come to see a top entertainer who is a nonconformist, who got some original ideas, who's going to push the envelope. And Richard Pryor and Dave Chappelle today. They're going to push the envelope. They're going to dare, Lenny Bruce, they're going to dare to be on the edge and do things everyone says you can't do and you shouldn't do, right? And Jeremy is now laughing, which I'm okay with it. It's likely laughing at me, or possibly he's just laughing at one of his own jokes he's telling. That's more likely because more people, times about a bazillion, laugh at things that Jeremy Danley says than even, believe it or not, laugh at how I look. Anyway, that'll do it for Foundation Friday. The Art of Individuality, folks. If you need any more inspiration, no matter whether you love or hate the guy, whatever, look no further than this guy who, made billions of dollars on his own terms, and then had a #1 TV show, #1 on the whole network, and then decided to run for his first political office ever, the presidency, and he won. Come on now, how ridiculous. So talk about a nonconformist. Basically the message, what is it? The establishment can't stand him. How about you? Does the establishment like you? Do you say things I hear all the time from prospects when I give them some ideas that are out of the box because they work wildly well, and they go, well, in my profession, Steve, you just can't do that. See, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, and I'm an accountant, I'm a plumber, I'm a dog walker, I'm an XYZ, and it isn't the way it's done. I know that's not the way it's done. That's why it works. Because what you do is the way it's done and the way everyone's supposed to, and especially attorneys with their, I don't want to seem, that'll seem unprofessional. That's it. They don't say unpresidential, but professionals use the term, that's unprofessional. Steve, that ad is unprofessional. That letter you wrote for me, that's unprofessional. Yeah. But other attorneys, accountants, doctors, lawyers, chiropractors, dentists use it, and they rake in millions and millions of dollars, and they haven't seen the inside of a practice room or a courtroom or anything for years. They can only come off of their yacht or out of their Bentley long enough to make another commercial and rake in some more cash and then go back. So you decide. Do you want to be the conformist and be safe, or do you want to be the individualist and give yourself a shot at wild success? Tell you which one I choose. Which one you choose is up to you. And that'll do it for Foundation Friday. Thanks for being here. I think you heard some voices in the background. We're having a little, some folks over here for a little, is that allowed? Are you allowed to have, it's less than 10 people. I think we're allowed because I think there's only like 8 or 9 people here. So I think that's allowed to have some people over. Ooh, amazing people. Who knew? So we're having a little Friday night get together. Hope you're having a fantastic evening wherever you are. Have a great weekend. I will be back tomorrow on Social Media Saturday. I'm going to help you out with people that understand that look at social media as every other potential money-making asset in your business. It's not about putting time in to get money back. It's about putting money in to get money back. So I'm going to talk about some social media advertising tomorrow and a couple of little twists and tricks you can use to greatly enhance and increase your results. So I hope you are with me then. Until then, thanks for being here today. Over and out. Bye-bye.